Well, hello. It's great to be here with the UNESCO friends and the Millennium Project friends. And this is the first of 7 sessions we are going to host during the UNESCO Futures Literacy Conference throughout the world. Today we have 2, tomorrow we have 3, and on Saturday we have 2 more. We will cover different activities of the Millennium Project and future literacy, and what UNESCO also can do with us and with other groups. Just for today, I want to talk about unlimited longevity that I called The Death of Death, and is the subject of my latest book in Spanish and in Portuguese. But let me begin with the Millennium Project, which is a global futurist think tank with many nodes around the world, in many places around the planet, and we work on the 15 global challenges, which are related also to the UN development goals that will be discussed actually this afternoon in the session we have at 4 p.m. Every year we publish the State of the Future report, the latest one, which has a lot of information also on terrorism and deterrence, and the Work and Technology 2050 scenarios. So I recommend that you go to the website of the Millennium Project and find out about the State of the Future report, and we are working on the next edition for next year. We also published as an independent book, Work and Technology 2050 scenarios. And this is a fantastic view of what could be possible in the year 2050 under 3 scenarios. Normally we use like famous futurist Herman Kahn, a good scenario, a bad scenario, and a middle of the road scenario. So a lot of information, a lot of possibilities in those scenarios. The Millennium Project also works on the futures research methodology, currently on version 3.0. We have about almost 40 chapters with as many methodologies written by the authors or leading experts on most of these methodologies. We additionally support what we call GFIS, which is the Global Futures Intelligence System of the Millennium Project that you can access through our general website and the specific website for GFIS, Global Futures Intelligence System. And we just published recently, a few weeks ago, a report for the Red Cross of the USA, the American Red Cross, about COVID scenarios in the year 2022, which is incredible. It's very short-term scenarios in a way, in basically just over 1 year. What could happen in 2022? Again, we have 3 scenarios, a relatively good one, a middle of the road scenario, and a bad one. So we need to consider all the possibilities, and you can download the report in the 3 major world languages, in Chinese, in Spanish, and in English. And there are also summaries in many other languages, so go to the website if you are interested. We additionally published regional studies, like one I coordinated with the colleagues from Latin America about our region, Latin America in 2030. And I had the pleasure to present it at the World Economic Forum, Davos, that many people know, Switzerland for Latin America. And we look at the trends into the future, like demographic evolution. What is happening to the population of the planet? And as you can see, the population is actually stabilizing, and it is already declining in some countries. It is declining in Russia, in Japan, in Italy, in Spain also is beginning to flatten and then declining. In Germany, in many advanced economies, the population is already stabilizing and beginning to decline. And even in fast growing countries like China, the population will decline in incredible numbers. There are some forecasts that the population of China will decline by 700 million people by the end of the century. 700 million people, that is incredible. It has never happened in peacetime that a country loses half of its population during peaceful times. In any event, that is what is happening in demography. stabilization of the population throughout the planet and decline in many countries, but the economy is still growing, even with COVID. Basically, probably late next year, the economy will be recovered to the year before. So by late 2021, it will be equal to 2019. So there was a big dip, huge dip, but it is also a big increase to recover the previous levels, like it has happened in other historic times, like during World War II, as you can see, or other regional crises or wars in different countries. You are looking at the economic evolution throughout the planet from the year 1800 and the forecast into the future. Which is interesting is that the world economy was very small and we were very poor. We had a GDP income per capita of about $1,000 per person per year, basically throughout the world, as you can see, until the year 1800. But then in the 19th century, the Industrial Revolution began, and an exponential growth also in economic terms started. And many countries grew from $1,000 per capita per person to $10,000 per person per year, and then $100,000 per person per year. So this is incredible because this is increasing. And I repeat, this is exponential. This is not a linear change. This is growing very fast, and it will recover, as I said, after the end of this pandemic. So actually development is happening faster and faster and faster. The first country that doubled its GDP per capita in world history was the United Kingdom during the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. And the UK required 58 years from 1780 to 1838 to be the first country in human nature, in human history, who was able to double in a systematic way its income per capita. Then other countries followed the example, the USA, Japan, Italy, Spain, South Korea. But today, the world leader is China. China is doubling its income per capita every 7, 8, 9 years. And China is followed by other countries like India. India is catching up with China, and it will probably be also doubling its income per capita in 7, 8, 9 years in the future. So today we know what works and we know what doesn't work. That is why we are developing faster and faster. All of this began, I repeat, during the Industrial Revolution at the end of the 18th century and beginning of the 19th century. Until that time, we were caught in what was called the Malthusian trap. Malthus, the famous British economist, he said that we were in a trap of poverty and disease, sickness, hunger. It was a horrible condition, actually, until the Industrial Revolution began. And the Industrial Revolution allowed us, humanity, to grow very fast, as I showed, exponentially. And you can see in the 19th century, humanity grew in economic terms about 100%. In the 20th century, about 400%. And this is per capita, okay? Every person, this was an incredible growth. And in this 21st century, even with COVID, it will be, who knows what, 2,000, 3,000% economic development by the end of the century. This is incredible. It's fantastic. I actually like to say that in the next 2 decades, we are going to see more technological changes than in the last 2 millennia. I repeat, in the next 20 years, more technological advances than in the last 2,000 years. And this has incredible implications also on the economy and the well-being of people and the longevity of humanity. You can see some incredible examples like Shanghai in a few decades, from a big poor city to an incredibly wealthy, dynamic, rich city. But some groups do not want to change and they don't want technology. A very well-known example are the Amish. The Amish, they don't want any technology beyond the one they had 2 centuries ago in the 18th century. And that is okay. every group, every person can decide what they want and what they don't want. So the Amish don't want airplanes, they don't want telephones, they don't want electricity, they don't want internet. And that is okay for them if they so choose. But that cannot be imposed for all of humanity, because technology actually has made humanity advance incredibly. And actually, technology is what makes us different from animals. We are basically animals with technology, animals that use technology. This is what humanity is, among many other things. But some groups like the Amish don't want technology, or the Yanomami Indians. I grew up in South America, and the Yanomami Indians, they don't want anything from the modern world. They don't want even clothes. They don't want clothes. They don't want to speak Spanish or Portuguese, even though they live in the border between Brazil, Portuguese speaking, and Venezuela, Spanish speaking. They don't want any of modernity. They don't want computers, obviously, like the Amish, or telephones, or airplanes, or electricity. And that is okay for them if they so choose. Maybe even 5,000 years ago, when the wheel was invented, there were people who did not want the wheels, the anti-wheel movement. And that was maybe okay for the anti-wheel people, but I think humanity has advanced incredibly since the wheel was invented about 5,000 years ago. Even in the United Kingdom, where the Industrial Revolution began, there was a group of people against machines. They did not want the machines because they said the machines would take away human jobs. Well, actually, thanks to the machines, is that we are so prosperous today compared to England 2 centuries ago. So the Luddites did not win, and humanity advanced incredibly. Actually, living in London today is much better than living in London 2 centuries ago, when there were pandemics all the time, and when the river Thames was filthy. There were no fish, no dogs, no animals. It was incredibly dirty. So now actually the Thames is relatively clean, and there are fish and there are dogs. So because of technology, we advance, but be prepared for the groups who do not like technology, like the Amish, or the Yanomami Indians, or the Luddites, or the anti-wheels, or the anti-vaccines people, which are now under COVID times very famous. Humanity has gone through 3 major waves, as futurist Alvin Toffler used to call half a century ago. The agricultural revolution, based on natural resources, the industrial revolution, based on financial resources to create industries and development. And now we are in the knowledge revolution, human resources. And this is incredible because it's spreading very fast, and human resources is human people. This new knowledge is based on humans. And we are moving up the famous pyramid of Abraham Maslow, who said that humans basically, we need to survive. So physiological needs, air, water, food, shelter, those were the very basic human needs, animal needs in a way. But we keep on evolving, we keep on advancing, and we move up and up the pyramid, this ladder of development, and we eventually get to self-actualization, the desire to become the most that we can be. And this is the road ahead for humanity. We are moving into a much better world, healthier, richer, prosperous, more intelligent world. And there are changes in every industry. Like I grew up in Venezuela, and you can read PDVSA, that is the largest company of Venezuela, the petroleum company of Venezuela, which is big, but Mickey Mouse actually is bigger. Mickey Mouse sells more than all the petroleum from Venezuela. And why so? Because the industries of the past, based on manufacturing, on the hands, manufacturing, are being overtaken by the industries of the mind, manufacturing, creating value, adding value. In fact, another example of adding value also from South America is the coffee industry. In Colombia, Juan Valdez is the example, the symbol of the coffee exports. And all Colombians know Juan Valdez, but most people outside Colombia do not know who he is or what he represents. But everybody in Colombia and everywhere in the world knows Starbucks. And Starbucks sells more than 10 times more than all the coffee exports from Colombia. So again, the value is not on the raw materials. The value is in creating, adding, innovation, imagination, which is what Starbucks does to the raw materials from Colombia, for example. So we need to add value to anything. So futurists, we talk about 4 ways to think about the future. The worst one is to be passive like an ostrich. You hide your head. Horrible, horrible. A bit less bad, but also bad, is to be reactive, like the firefighter that only appears when there is a fire. You respond to the emergency. But it is better to be proactive, to be prepared for any problem. Like when you buy insurance, you are prepared in a way. But the best is to be proactive, to build the future, to create the future, to construct the future. So I hope that futurists like you are ready to create the future, the best one. So don't be like an ostrich. Don't hide your head into the ground. Do the opposite. Do like what humans do. Use the best of technology to fly and to see the future and to prepare for the future. So don't hide your head into the ground, but fly, fly, open your eyes. There is a disruption of everything now. Everything is being disrupted. So I like to say, using some technology companies, a new one and an old one, Uber yourself before you get Kodak. Okay, like Kodak is kind of dying while Uber is kind of growing very fast, because also changes in technological industries and everything is changing. Shopping, entertainment, advertisement, everything, all the way to the governments are changing because of technology. We have seen today, Uber actually is the largest taxi company in the planet, and it does not own even one taxi. Or Facebook, the largest media owner, but it doesn't really create content. Or Alibaba and Amazon, the most valuable retailer companies in the world, but they actually have no inventory. Or Airbnb, the largest hotel chain, and they don't have a single room. Okay, so a total disruption. But the biggest disruption has been now with COVID. Probably you have seen what has caused the digital transformation of your company, of your country, of yourself, of all of us now today. It was not the CEO or the CTO, it has been COVID-19 that is accelerating this digital transformation. One example is the company Zoom. Zoom, in the few months after the beginning of the pandemic, actually became more rich or wealthy in terms of the stock market capitalization than all the other airline companies together. Incredible. Now it has been declined, obviously, because COVID is now being controlled in some parts of the world already. So Zoom is actually coming back down, and some airline companies are coming back up. But it was incredible how fast it happened because of COVID. A few years ago, I visited Sir Arthur C. Clarke in his home in Sri Lanka. He lived in Colombo, to talk about the future, because he was a fantastic futurist who wrote the 3 laws of the future. And he said, first law of the future, when a famous scientist says that something is possible, he is probably right. But when he says it is impossible, he's probably wrong. Second law of the future, the only way of discovering the limits of the possible is to venture past those limits into the impossible. And the third law, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And so we are going to talk about magic, because the future will look magical to our eyes today. For example, 30 years ago, personal computers were just beginning in a way. Everybody was talking about personal computers. And then 20 years ago, most people were trying to get cell phones. And 10 years ago, Google, Facebook, Wikipedia, and many other companies were becoming truly global brands. So what will happen in the next 10, 20, 30 years? We are going to see magic, like the control of aging. We will have immortal cells thanks to the advances in technology. In fact, my friend Ray Kurzweil, who studied in my alma mater, MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, is quoted for saying that in 2045, we will become immortal. We will become immortal thanks to the singularity and all the technological advances that we will see. Ray Kurzweil, in his famous book, Singularity is Near, talks about exponential change and how things are changing exponentially. And actually, some people this is becoming even faster. And Ray Kurzweil is writing a new book to be launched next year, which is called The Singularity is Nearer. Nearer because it will be much closer in 2021. And actually, because things are moving even faster. I was one of the founding faculty of Singularity University in the year 2009 in Silicon Valley, at the time supported by NASA, Google, and many other incredible companies to talk about future issues like the singularity, immortality at NASA with Google in Silicon Valley. And basically, we believe on 4 main areas of technology that are converging. They are nanotechnology that studies the atoms, biotechnology that studies the cells, infotechnology that studies bits, and cognotechnology that studies neurons. And these 4 technologies are converging in the next 20 to 30 years in what is called the singularity, the technological singularity. And there are basically 2 types of technologies. The ones on top, nano and bio, which I like to call the hardware of life. And the 2 on the bottom, info and cogno, which are the software of life. The hardware and the software of life. Additionally, there are 2 important dates, 2029 and 2045. According to my friend Ray Kurzweil, 2 things will happen on 2029 and 2 things will happen on 2045. One for the hardware and one for the software. So in 2029, in terms of the hardware, our bodies, our biology, we will reach longevity escape velocity. Longevity escape velocity, that means that we will be able to live long enough to live forever, because for every year after 2030, we gain 1 extra year of life, but it's still aging, But we will age continuously, living longer until 2045, when we expect to have the first rejuvenation treatments and become actually younger. It doesn't matter how old you might be at the time, we will have rejuvenation treatments by 2045 at the latest, we hope, according to my friend Ray Kurzweil. So those 2 dates on the hardware biology side, longevity escape velocity, that sometimes we call the Methuselarity or the singularity of Methuselah, and 2045 for immortality and rejuvenation. On the software side, we have passing the Alan Turing test by 2029. That means that in 1 decade, we will be able to pass the Alan Turing test, which means that you don't know if you are talking to a human or if you are talking to a machine, to a robot, to an artificial intelligence. This will happen in 1 decade. And then eventually in 2045, we will reach the technological singularity. That means that an intelligence, an artificial intelligence combined with human intelligence will be the sum, the addition of all human minds together. So it will be a mega global planetary intelligence of all humans and artificial intelligence. Why this will happen so fast? Because things are changing exponentially, faster, smaller, cheaper, and better continuously. And we don't understand the nature of exponential change because we think linearly. We think linearly, even though these changes are exponential. What happens if we take 30 linear steps? If we take 30 linear steps, after 30 steps, each one of 1 meter, we have walked 30 meters. But if we walk exponentially and we double, after doubling for 30 times, we have walked about 1 billion meters, and we have gone around planet Earth 26 times. This is absolutely incredible. And that is the big difference between exponential and linear. And remember that technology is changing exponentially, even if our minds still think linearly. A good example I like to give is the IBM punch cards that I used 40 years ago. This was how programs, computer programs were written or memories were stored. Each one of those punch cards was about 1K of memory. There were different sizes, but you can see about 100 by 10. 100 by 10 is 1,000, that was 1K. And I used that when I started my first courses on computers. And floppy disks came. The first ones were 8 inches big, and also 1K of memory. The first generation, 1K, 8 inches big. Then they became smaller, but with more memory, and smaller with more memory. And today we have pen drives that are already up to 1 terabyte. So think what has happened in the last 3-4 decades, from 1K to 1 terabyte. So what do you think will happen in the next 20, 30, 40 years? It will happen this and more, because the acceleration might be even accelerating, an acceleration of the acceleration. This will radically change humanity and humans. Until now, through evolution, we evolved, and the brain evolved and grew from the reptilian primitive brain to the limbic brain, and now the neocortex, which is what gives us what we call our human intelligence. But now scientists are talking, we are going to connect our neocortex with the exocortex, the new exocortex, connecting our brains to the cloud, to internet. That will give us super intelligence. How will this be? Well, the brain is complex. In fact, it's the most complex structure in the known universe, at least today. Maybe tomorrow we will find a Martian with a bigger brain, or we will create artificial intelligence with larger brains. But today, the brain is the most complex structure in the known universe. And it has 10 to the 11 neurons, which is a lot, but it can be improved, it can be increased. So, and each brain has about 1,000 connections, or 2,000, 3,000. That makes 10 to the 14 connections or synapses. And the brain computes at different speeds. There are different waves, brain waves of 1 hertz, 10 hertz, 100 hertz, even a very fast brain wave, 1,000 hertz, 1 kilohertz. 1 kilohertz is fast for the brain. But we have devices today, we have mobile phones and computers that are gigahertz. This phone is millions of times faster than my brain, millions of times faster. So anyway, today the unenhanced, unimproved brain computes around 10 to the 17 operations per second. And this is obviously if we don't talk about the mind, the spirit, and the soul. I like to talk about the mind, the spirit of the soul, but only after 3 shots of vodka. You need a little bit of vodka to talk about the mind, the spirit, and the soul. And now we will connect our neocortex with the exocortex. One of the leading projects is Neuralink by Elon Musk that talks about connecting our brains to the cloud and using AI, artificial intelligence, to enhance our minds, to become more intelligent. And I think this is fantastic. We will become more intelligent. We will become more connected. We will become faster if you want it. If you want it. If you don't want it, if you want to be stupid, you can be stupid. If you want to be slow, you can be slow. But if you have the possibility to be intelligent, to be fast, to be more connected, you will have that possibility too. This is happening in all areas, not only in the brain, in computing, also on biotechnology, medicine. Look at the cost of sequencing the human genome. It started in 1990, and it took 13 years for the first sequence of the human genome. And the USA government paid over $1 billion. And other countries and other companies altogether, $3 billion, 13 years, the first human genome. Today, in 2020, you can sequence the human genome for a couple of $100 in a couple of hours. And we expect maybe in 2025, you will sequence your complete genome for $10 in 1 minute. $10 in 1 minute. This is absolutely incredible. This is not just exponential, it's incredibly exponential, and not just on cost, also on time. And this is happening in all technologies that can be digitized. Synthetic biology, which is digitizing biology. In the year 2000, the first virus, artificial virus, was created. But viruses are very small, very few genes, and they can be sequenced and created. In fact, the COVID-19 virus was sequenced in only 2 weeks, and the first vaccine was it only took a few months. This is a world record. Vaccines could take many years, decades to create. Now, it was sequenced in only 2 weeks, and in about 9-10 months, the first vaccines came out. Anyway, a virus, very small, easy to sequence and to create or recreate artificially. A virus is not that complex. A bacteria is more complex, but in 2010 also, a first artificial bacteria was created. And eventually, probably by 2045, we will be able to create artificial human genomes and improve on the human genome. In fact, today we say that aging is a disease, and thanks to biotechnology, we will cure that disease. Aging is a curable disease. And why is this important? Because in times of COVID, and you can see my arm against COVID, my weapon, my mask, among other weapons that we have now against COVID, we can see that COVID affects mostly older people, because old age is the leading risk factor, and not just for COVID, for all diseases, basically. But COVID is a small pandemic. It's a very small pandemic in world history. The biggest one was the Black Death, the bubonic plague, that is estimated to have killed 200 million people. That's an incredible amount of people. When the population of the world was not even 1 billion people, it killed 200 million people. In fact, in Europe, it is estimated that 1 out of 3 people died. 1 out of 3 people, Europeans, died. And then we have a smallpox also, or the Spanish flu, which was not from Spain, by the way. It originated in the USA, but it is estimated that killed 50 million people or more when the population of the planet was 2 billion. It killed 50 or more when the population was 2 billion. Today, the population is close to 8 billion people, and COVID will probably kill 2 million people at the end of this pandemic. We don't know, maybe a little more, hopefully a little less, or a lot more less, but it is a tragedy. Every human life we lose is a tragedy. But again, in historic terms, COVID-19 is small. However, governments have pumped incredible amounts of money. Just the US government put US $2 trillion, $2 trillion. And big companies are putting billions and billions of dollars. Altogether, it is estimated that by now, $11 trillion have been pumped to fight COVID. $11 trillion. And it might be even more by the end of the year, 14 trillion, trillion. These are big, incredible numbers to imagine. So if we have put $14 trillion for a small pandemic, imagine what we should do for the main pandemic, which is aging, the major disease. And I repeat, aging is the main risk factor for influenza, as you can see, for cancer, for Alzheimer's, for cardiovascular disease, basically for all diseases. Aging is the #1 killer in the world today. Over 60% of the people in the planet today die of aging. And in the advanced countries, over 90% of the people die of aging. Today, people don't die from wars, don't die from malaria, don't die from AIDS, don't die from terrorism. Of course, people do die from those things, but in percentages, the #1 killer by far is aging. I repeat, over 90% in advanced countries, and over the whole planet, over 60%, even in poor African countries, people are dying of aging today. In the poorest country, there is no country in the world today where aging does not kill over 50%. Anywhere in Africa, people, of course, sadly die of malaria, of AIDS, and many other things, but even in the poorest places, half of the people die of aging. Aging is the #1 enemy, the public enemy of all humanity. That is the enemy. Aging is the #1 enemy of humanity. And until now, we didn't have healthcare. We had sick care where we would actually fight different diseases. Now we have to change our mentality because aging is the mother of all diseases, is the center of all diseases process. And we have to tackle aging as the center, the mother of all diseases, and that will let us move into healthcare, real healthcare. Because if we could cure cancer, imagine we could cure all cancers. People estimated average life expectancy would only increase 3 years. Why? Because you could die of something else. Okay, if you don't die of cancer, you could die of something else. If you cure heart trouble, you could add maybe 4 years. And if you cure cancer and heart disease, you add 7 years. But if you slow aging, you get decades of life. And if we cure aging, we could be living for as long, healthy and young as we want. So 3 years ago, David Good, who is a Cambridge educated scientist, and I am also Cambridge educated, but from Cambridge, Massachusetts, from the MIT, we decided that we would write a book about the #1 issue of humanity that, I repeat, is aging. That is the #1 issue that kills over half of the population, even in the poorest places today. So we got combined to write this book that has already come out in my mother tongue, in Spanish, also in Portuguese. It has become a best-selling book. In Spain, it was #1 and #5 simultaneously, #1 in paper, #5 in Kindle. In Brazil, in Portuguese, it was also #1. And next year, the book will come out on other big languages, in Chinese, in Russian, in French, and I am working on other international editions. Hopefully also soon in Arabic, in Japanese, Korean, English, of course, but I'm looking for help and editors in different languages. So if you are connected to the publishing industry, or you know editors or literary agents, please contact me, because remember, this is the #1 enemy of humanity, #1 enemy. And I want to be very clear. Of course, there are many other problems: climate change, terrorism, wars, malaria, etc., etc., etc. But the #1 killer of humanity today, by far, is aging and age-related diseases. So, and also, when we talk about human rights, what is the first human right? Is the right to life, and aging destroys that right. Anyway, so contact me for international editions of The Death of Death. Also, because I'm donating all the book rights, all the royalties, all the dividends, my co-author and me, we are donating all of that to top scientific institutions. For example, for the Spanish edition, half of the money goes to the Sense Research Foundation, which is the leading institution for anti-aging in Silicon Valley, California, and for another institution in Spain, Apadrina la Ciencia. We are doing similarly with the Portuguese edition for Brazil. We are donating for a university in Brazil, and we plan to do the same in different countries. Why are we doing this now? Because the advances in anti-aging just began. This was impossible last century. It was impossible even half a century ago. But today, we have been able to double the life expectancy of mice. Today, we have mice that live the equivalent of 200 human years. A normal mice lives like 2 to 3 years. We have mice that live 5 years. So that is twice their previous average life expectancy. We have multiplied by 4 the life expectancy of mosquitoes like Drosophila melanogaster, and we have multiplied by 10 the life expectancy of worms like C. elegans. So today we have worms that live 1,000 years, human equivalent, 1,000 years. These are called the Methuselah worms because they live like Methuselah 1,000 years. Anyway, today we even know that cancer is immortal. You know, there was a person called Henrietta Lacks who was born in 1920. Actually, today she would be 100 years old, but she died in 1951 of cancer. However, her cancer tumor is alive today, is alive. So that cancer tumor, even though it just became 100 years old, it looks like a teenager. And that showed us that cancer actually are immortal cells. And this is incredible. So when people tell me that immortality is impossible, I say, how is it impossible? It already exists. Cancer cells discovered how to become immortal. And cancer did not take a PhD degree. Cancer didn't go to university. However, it discovered how to become immortal. So if cancer cells discover how to reach immortality, we will too. Scientists, engineers will discover that. But not only cancer cells are immortal, also the best cells, which are germ cells for reproduction, germ cells are also biologically immortal, And there are some small organisms like hydras. Hydras also are considered biologically immortal. And bacteria, the first life forms in the planet over 3.5 billion years ago that divide symmetrically, bacteria that divide symmetrically are also considered biologically immortal. Life appeared to live. The purpose of life is more life, better life, unlimited, healthy life. My friend Aubrey de Grey, who leads the Sense Research Foundation in Silicon Valley, and who wrote the prologue of my book, he was very controversial 15 years ago when he was working on his book, Ending Aging. That was revolutionary when it came, Ending Aging. It was so revolutionary that the magazine of MIT, my alma mater, the MIT Technology Review, called him nuts, that he was a charlatan, that this was impossible. That was in 2005. Today, well, actually in 2019, they actually said, the same magazine, MIT Technology Review, they said, old age is over if you want it, which is the important concept. So this is incredible. Imagine the change of mentality of MIT, the change of mentality of Technology Review, that they call him crazy, and now that he was right, in fact, he is right. So very, very interesting what is happening. Isabel Santiago, you have your microphone on. If you can turn it off so that we don't have background noise, please, Isabel.
Sorry.
Okay, so let me tell you about all revolutions. All truth goes through three stages. Number one, it is ridiculed. Number two, it is violently opposed. And number three, it is accepted as self-evident. And this is very important because today, people like me who are at the frontiers of knowledge of what is happening, we are either called charlatans, crazy, ridiculed, or even opposed violently. But I am looking forward to the year 2030, the year 2040, and eventually 2045 at the latest, when we will look back to today and we will realize how primitive we were today, that we would let people die. This is horrible today. We let people die. We will remember this in the future, how primitive, how barbaric we are today that we let people die when we are so close to cure aging and to reverse aging. This is a matter of time. And I like to say we are living between the last human mortal generation and the first human immortal generation. And where do you want to be? Do you want to be among the last people who die or the first people who can live for as long as they want? My friend Ray Kurzweil, co-founder of Singularity University, he talks about 3 bridges to immortality in his fantastic book called Fantastic Voyage, with a beautiful subtitle, Live Long Enough to Live Forever, where he talks about longevity, escape velocity, and the Methuselarity. Basically, 3 bridges to immortality. The first bridge, the 2010s that will allow us to live following the things that our grandmother told us. Eat well, sleep well, do exercise, don't drink, don't smoke, things like that, okay? That's bridge 1, 2010s. That takes us into bridge 2 that we are starting now in the 2020s, bridge 2, which are the first biotechnology treatments that are appearing now. And that will allow us to live until bridge 3, which is in the 2030s, the first nanotechnology treatment, using nanotechnology even within our bodies to repair anything. And that will take us into the 2040s with artificial intelligence and immortality and the singularity. Many companies, actually technology companies, communications companies, computer companies are realizing that aging is indeed a disease that can be cured, like Google. Google, a few years ago, created a new subsidiary, a new company called Calico, California Life Company, Calico, whose objective is to cure aging, to stop aging, to reverse aging, to solve death. Because death is a technical problem and death will have a technical solution. They have already invested $3 billion on these developments with Calico. But not just Google, also Microsoft. Now that we have sequenced the human genome and we can understand how cancer did to become immortal, what are the genetic changes in cancer cells so that they become immortal, we will solve cancer because just like a computer problem, we can understand the sequence of the genome and see what we need to do to become immortal too, or to cure cancer like Microsoft is working on, or Chan Zuckerberg Initiative by Mark Zuckerberg and his wife, Priscilla Chan, who is a medical doctor who studied biology in Harvard University, where she met Mark Zuckerberg. Okay, when they had their first daughter, whose name is Max, they said Max would not die, at least would not die of aging, because we would cure all diseases, including aging, in her lifetime. In 1 generation, we are going to cure all diseases, including aging. This is new, I repeat. This was impossible even a few years back, last century, absolutely impossible. But today, it's not only possible, this is becoming the largest industry in the world. Today, we are talking about billions. Soon, we are going to be talking about trillions, because nothing compares to life, to human life, as COVID has shown, because health is wealth. If you don't have health, you don't have anything. You don't have life even. So health is wealth. And we need to work towards healthy future. And this, in 10 years, I believe will be the largest industry in the world. And it is just starting. This is like internet 20 years ago, or even a bit more, maybe 30 years ago. This is only the beginning of rejuvenation technologies. But many people are just realizing this is possible because of the incredible advances, like the Nobel Prize in Medicine in the year 2012 that was given to John Gordon, who discovered how to clone, and to Shinya Yamanaka, who rejuvenated cells. He discovered that changing 4 genes, only 4 genes, he could transform an old cell into a young cell. So this is going beyond genetics into epigenetics, which is which genes are expressed and which genes are not expressed. And we can reprogram cells. We can rejuvenate cells. And this is known scientifically today, Nobel Prize in Medicine, rejuvenation of a cell, cell reprogramming. Incredible things have been happening in the last year also. Epigenetic clocks to measure how old you are biologically are being developed, and you can even check today that experiments are rejuvenated rats and mice. This is happening today, rejuvenation of animals, experiments. And with CRISPR also, we will be able to edit the human genome and eliminate diseases and also reverse aging eventually. Senolytics is one of the first treatments being invented right now, which means to eliminate senescent old cells. This is senolytics, the elimination of old cells in the body. This is one of the first treatments of biotechnology, the second bridge to immortality, according to Ray Kurzweil. And this is just beginning. Also, new treatments like young blood. Young blood is very important, and this has been known for some time, but now it is studied scientifically why cells of young organisms rejuvenate old organisms. And this is not like Dracula. No, no, no. You don't need to suck the blood of someone younger. No. What we need to do scientifically is to understand what is there in young blood that rejuvenates organisms. And this is happening now. We will probably soon, very soon, we will understand, we will find, because it's not a secret. We are studying young blood and comparing to old blood. So very soon we will understand why young blood rejuvenates organisms. So I foresee that in 20 years, I will not be older. I will be younger. I'm not just using a Russian application like FaceApp that changes my physical age. No, I will be younger because I will be biologically younger thanks to rejuvenation technologies. Why? Because this has also been the biggest dream, the first dream of humanity, as we know. In the first written ever, the first book ever written, the Epic of Gilgamesh, almost 5,000 years ago, Gilgamesh was looking for immortality. This has always been the dream of humanity, immortality. And not only for the Mesopotamians, for the Egyptians, they look for immortality. They built all these pyramids and they wrote the Book of the Dead trying to become immortal. Or Chinese Emperor Qin Huang, who also wanted to become immortal, and he built the Terracotta Army, and he sent a huge navy to Japan to try to discover immortality in the islands far to the east. Unfortunately, the Chinese or the Mesopotamians or the Egyptians did not have the technology that we have today. And today, I'm talking about today, not yesterday. The technology of yesterday is very primitive compared to the technology of today, which is also very primitive compared to the technology of tomorrow. Because remember, technology is advancing exponentially, not linearly, exponentially. What we will have in the next 10 years is not similar to what we had in the last 10 years. No, no, it is going to be much more, much faster. But we still cannot control aging, at least for 10 years, 20 years, as I have explained. And for those people who die, there is a plan B, which is cryopreservation. Cryopreservation was also considered impossible. In fact, everything is impossible until it becomes possible. And cryopreservation was impossible until scientists discovered about half a century ago that you could freeze, actually cryopreserve spermatozoids, and then reanimate them wherever you wanted. So you could freeze them and put them in liquid nitrogen and then reanimate them. Then it was done with eggs, much more complicated, and it is a different procedure. It is called vitrification because you actually need to take the water out because it expands the water when it gets frozen and put a cryoprotectant. But anyway, today we know how to do this with the sperm, with eggs, with embryos, certain tissues and organs. In fact, just a few days ago, there was an incredible news of one embryo, one human embryo that was frozen, cryopreserved, actually cryopreserved 27 years ago, was born recently after being reimplanted into a woman, okay? The mother actually was only 29 years old and the embryo was 27 years old. So the mother, in theory, is only 2 years older than the baby. Incredible things that are happening. So also when people tell me cryonics is impossible, I say, how is it impossible? There are about 8 million humans who were frozen as embryos or as a sperm or as eggs. 8 million of us, 8 million human beings. And actually, most cows today come from artificial insemination of a cryopreserved sperm or eggs or embryos. So actually, we know this works, and we have not done that with a full human, but we have done that with small humans and with tissues and organs. And this is only advancing exponentially. There are centers throughout the planet, like Alcor in Arizona, or CryoRoots outside Moscow. I have visited them all. And there is now a new one in China, which are basically cryopreserving people. And also, sadly, one of my friends died in 2016. And with a group of people, we cryopreserved him because it was his wish. He wanted to see the future and he believed in the possibility of human cryopreservation. And so we cryopreserved him on February 10th, 2016. Today, there are hundreds of people who are cryopreserved in different centers, as I have explained, throughout the world. Anyway, we are getting to the last enemy. Even in the Bible, it says, the last enemy that shall be destroyed is death. Death is the last enemy. Actually, is the big common enemy of all of humanity, of all of humans. And as Woody Allen said, I don't want to achieve immortality through my work. I want to achieve it through not dying. Very sensible, I would say. And we keep on moving up the pyramid of Abraham Maslow, from physiological needs to self-actualization. So I invite you to join us in this future of unlimited longevity, unlimited intelligence, and unlimited well-being. We talk about many of these things in futurist groups, obviously, and here at UNESCO, we are happy to talk about this with the Millennium Project and with Humanity Plus. I am the Vice President of Humanity Plus, and we say, don't limit your challenge, challenge your limits. So I invite you all to come to Madrid for the next Transhumanist World Futurist Conference in the Ateneo de Madrid, the most beautiful place in the center of Madrid, the Athenaeum of Madrid, the culture, the science of Madrid. June 2021, after the pandemic, and I guarantee you it will be immortal, literally immortal. We had in previous events incredible speakers like famous robot Sophia. She came to Madrid 2 years ago, and we will have other incredible speakers. And join us for La Muerte de la Muerte, and contact me if you can help to have other foreign editions in different languages. I want this to be popular in every language. And just to be finishing, there is always yin and yang, as the Chinese say, yin and yang. And this is so complex, as you can see on the right side, that the yin yang inside has little yin yang, and little yin yang has little yin yang. So this is very complex. We need to meditate. I love to meditate, to think about the future in different types of meditations, no problem, meditation as a whole. And I finish with this fantastic Chinese word. I lived 3 years in Japan, and I learned to write some Japanese characters like this one, which is crisis. Crisis, before I wrote upside down or sideways, now I know how to write it properly. Crisis in Chinese, and in Japanese, and in Korean, and even in Vietnamese, when they use Chinese characters, they have 2 parts. The first part is danger, danger. But the second part is opportunity, opportunity. We are living in the biggest crisis with a lot of danger in the world. This is also the biggest opportunity for humanity, for unlimited longevity, unlimited intelligence, and unlimited well-being. So thank you so much for your patience, and I am open to share any other ideas, comments, and I am waiting for all of you in Madrid next June. So Mara, let's see who else wants to participate.
Are there any questions? Maybe. There are a lot of events coming around, so people keeps coming and leaving and coming. But we have people on the streaming. No question in the chat. Maybe someone wants to join the conversation and say something. Otherwise, we will give the appointment for the next. Oh, we have Circa. Nice to see you. I'll give you the floor to Circa.
Thank you, Mara, and thank you, Jose, for your presentation. It is always equally exciting to hear it. We know from the Millennium project each other, and I'm chairing the Helsinki node. I just briefly want to thank you how clearly you presented how important the speed, potential, and power of technology really is. And technology foresight is one of the very key fields inside futures thinking and future studies. But I'd like to point out also that we have to anticipate possible risks and threats that are involved so that we balance out this exploration for potential, but at the same time we look at possible risks in order to avoid them. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir, I totally agree. That is also why I mentioned that there is the danger part and there is the yin and yang. We have to be careful because technologies can be used for bad things, not only for good things. But the problem is not the technology itself, it is us humans. We humans use the technology for good and bad things, like nuclear energy. We can use it for electricity or to make bombs, or even fire. We can use fire to cook, to get warm, or to burn people at the stake. So fire is not the problem. Artificial intelligence is not the problem. Nuclear energy is not the problem. The problem is what we humans do because we are not intelligent. And that is my concern. And I want to be more intelligent. The problem is not artificial intelligence to make us more intelligent. The problem is human stupidity. And we are very stupid, unfortunately. Elizabeth, I see you there. Yes. I would love to hear your comments. You always have a lot of deep insight.
Well, I don't know how deep this is, but it's one of the concerns. And yes, you mentioned it, but I still don't know how will we solve the increasing inequality. We already are increasing and diversifying inequality as we are now. Access to even digital device and so I don't speak about rich-poor inequality. I speak about really intelligent and access to information inequality that is increasing exponentially as we speak. What you presented would be even more. So some people will have the opportunity to take advantage of all these technologies. When do you think we would get to the point that these technologies will be equally available to anyone? Because even healthcare is not equally available now to everyone. And how will we bridge this growing inequality? What will happen? Will we have even more slave and I don't know, bosses system, or how will we do about that? And if it's true that we address aging, then what about the extraordinary increase in the number of people on the planet? How will our planet even bear that? Okay, we will go to space in time and so, but until then, what will happen until then? So two issues.
Yeah, okay.
And increasing and diversifying inequality.
Yeah. Well, obviously there has always been inequality. And actually, I think the inequality today or in the future will decrease substantially. Today, even a poor people in London is wealthier than the King of England in London 2 centuries ago. So, and also lives much longer, because even poor people today live twice as long as people over a century ago. But every technology immediately, by definition, creates inequality, by definition, because it's new. So when the mobile phone came, there was inequality because very few people had mobile phones. Or with the genome sequence, by definition, when the first human sequenced its genome, it created a fantastic inequality. But then this actually spreads throughout the world so fast. So actually inequality decreases incredibly fast. But again, always there will be inequality with new technologies by definition. That's the definition of a new thing, is inequality. New, by definition, inequality, but it will be transferred quickly to the planet. However, the world is changing radically, and we will connect everybody. So you will be part of me when I connect my brain to the cloud. When we have neural link or more advanced devices, and we are all connected to the exocortex, the neocortex of your brain is connected to the exocortex. So I will care more about you, even more than today, because you will be part of me. It's like, you know, this little finger worries about my eye or about my mouth because it's all part of me. So you will be part of me. I will be part of you if you want it. And therefore, I will be worried about you much more than today, much more. The world will change radically after the singularity in 2045. So I think it is actually a very good, positive advancement. And I repeat, we will be more intelligent. Why we also have all these problems? Because we're stupid. We are stupid. When we become augmented in intelligence, we will solve those problems better. Second issue about population. The scenario I talk is about 2045. In fact, I never talk beyond that year because it will be a new world. It will be a totally new world. You will be part of me. I will be part of you. We will be part of a global brain. We will be part of everything on this planet. So even to talk about a population will be probably a non-issue in the future. But if humanity would continue, again, reproducing as we do today, also that is not a problem, because it will take decades. It will take centuries. It's not going to happen from today to tomorrow, or even to next decade, or even next century, that the population will explode. No, it will not happen like that, because the problem today is that the population is declining in advanced economies. It's going down. China will lose 700 million people. The problem of China is that they don't have enough people in the future. That is why they are translating my book. The government of China is publishing my book because they are worried that the population in China is collapsing. A collapse of the population of China, a collapse of the population of Japan, a collapse of Russia, a collapse of Germany, a collapse of Italy. In Italy, no bambinos in Italy. In Spain, population collapsing. In most advanced economies, the population is actually declining. So anyway, that is not a problem. But also, if we look into history, Malthus said over 2 centuries ago that the world was overpopulated, that it was the end of the world because there was overpopulation. At that time, when Malthus was alive, the population of London was about 1 million people, and the population of England was 10 million people. Today, London has more than 10 million people, more than the population of England 2 centuries ago. And the situation is much better. London is much cleaner today than when Malthus was alive. And what is different, besides having more people, is that we have more technology. And actually, they are related because humans, we have brains who create, who invent, who innovate. And we advance because we have more people. That is the reason we have advanced so much, because we have more people thinking. People just don't come with a mouth and a behind. We come with a brain, the most complex structure in the universe. Therefore, we should have more people. My worry is that we will not have many more people. That is my concern, that we don't have enough people. I want to have more people. People, the brains, the most complex structure in the universe. So do you want to have more brains or less brains? We should have more brains. We need to have more people. But the problem is population, as I said, is stabilizing and declining. That is the problem. Instead of having more people, as we should, to keep on advancing, we are stabilizing. But good points and controversial issues, and I love to argue with you. Okay, I don't know if we have your session this afternoon. I will join your session talking about the Sustainable Development Goals.
Okay, and probably one of the points will be that we cannot be sustainable if we become immortal. If there are no more questions, I would have a third one that is completely different. The 2045, is it realistic, honestly? Because you and I, we are old enough to know that when we were kids, we dreamed and we were told that in 2000 we will all be in flying cars. It's 2020 and we still don't have flying cars. Do you really think, I mean, I have seen the technological mapping that you have shown and how fast we advance, but from here to really getting to the point that we connect our brains to the clouds or so, how realistic do you honestly think that is? With all due respect to Kurzweil and you and all the others, I mean, who think that?
Yeah, this is a fantastic question also, Elizabeth. Really, really very good point and deep fundamental issue that you are talking about. Actually, as I said, I think it will happen earlier. It's going to happen before that. Ray Kurzweil, he's just finishing his new book, The Singularity is Nearer, because it might happen before 2045. People didn't expect this to happen now so fast and even faster in the future because we still think linearly. So we tend to overestimate in the short run, but underestimate in the long run. And just to give you an example, because history is being written now with a space travel, Elon Musk just did a fantastic new experiment with the Starship to go to Mars. And, you know, his target is 2022 to send the first unmanned mission with equipment to Mars and the first manned mission and woman mission with people in 2024. He said it might be delayed to 2026, but anyway, that is nothing. SpaceX is just over a decade old. So how can he be so fast when NASA has taken, you know, 70 years? How can Elon Musk do it so fast? Because younger people, newer mentality, newer ideas, more technology, and exponential thinking. Also, Elon Musk talks about Neuralink, and he has said it, that in 1 decade, we will be able to connect our brains to the cloud in 1 decade. So I think all of this is going to happen, and actually faster than most people expect. And I repeat the dates because they are important. 2029, 2 things will happen. We will reach longevity escape velocity, or the Methuselarity, and we will pass the Alan Turing test. In fact, those 2 things can happen before. And then we will get to 2045 and we will reach immortality with rejuvenation, and we will reach the singularity where all of us who want, the Amish might not want it, or the Yanomami Indians might not want it, or the anti-will people, or the anti-vaccines, I don't know. But most people will probably want to enhance their minds, to be more intelligent. And that is beautiful. I want to be more intelligent, but I have a limited brain, a limited capacity, a limited communication ability. And if I can be smarter and be connected to more people and understand the problems and help with the solutions, it will be beautiful. So I think we live in the most incredible time. This is the best time to be alive. And also for the first time in history that we have the possibility to think scientifically about unlimited longevity, unlimited intelligence, and unlimited well-being. Those 3 things, which are the pillars of transhumanism: super intelligence, super longevity, and super well-being. Okay, so beautiful questions. We will continue the discussion in the afternoon. I don't know if there are any more final comments from our moderator, Mara, or
No, everything is quiet. I think people are going to have lunch. So I just think that we can give the appointment for the afternoon at 4, where me, Elizabeth, and Hector Casanueva will be live to talk about sustainable development goals and global challenges facing humanity. So see you later on Zoom, and go on our website, the Millennium Project website, for the links to access and join the conversation. Thank you, Jose. Very, very interesting. Thank you very much.
live long and prosper. Live long and
Hi,
prosper.
everybody.
Thank you, Jose. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Simone, hi. Nice to see you live. I thought you were, joining
you,
our
Jose.
conversations around.
Yeah, see you in the afternoon.
See you.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.